Hey there and welcome. Today, we are going to crack the code on one of the biggest mysteries out there, our own love lives and why we have the relationship patterns we do. I mean, does that question hit a little close to home for anyone else? If you've ever felt like you're stuck in this weird relationship loop, guess what? It's probably not just bad luck or having a type. There's a really good chance it's a deep-seated blueprint you've been following this whole time without even realizing it. Okay, so let's get right into it. The key to unlocking all of this is something called attachment theory. And the main idea here is that we all have this internal working model for love. You can almost think of it like the secret programming, the operating system that's running all of your relationships in the background. So, where does this working model come from? Well, it gets built way back in childhood, based on how we interacted with our first caregivers. It basically forms our core beliefs about love. Things like, am I actually worthy of being loved? And can I really trust other people to be there for me? And once that model is set, man, it just keeps guiding us, shaping everything from our expectations to our actual behavior in our adult relationship. And what's so wild is how this whole idea came about. It actually started with a guy named John Bowlby, who was studying kids back in the 60s and 70s. But then, in the late 80s, two researchers, Cindy Hazen and Philip Shaver, had this huge light bulb moment. They realized that the way we act as adults in relationships, wanting to be close, feeling safe when our partner's around, getting anxious when they're not, it was a perfect mirror of those early childhood bonds, a total game changer. So this internal working model we've been talking about, it basically creates four main attachment styles. And honestly, getting a handle on these is like finally getting the user manual for your own love life and maybe even understanding the patterns of the people you always seem to end up with. Okay, check this out. It's actually way simpler than you might think. Your entire attachment style really just boils down to two things: how you see yourself, is it positive or negative, and how you see other people, positive or negative. That's it. Where you land on this grid pretty much tells the whole story. All right, first up is what's often called the gold standard, secure attachment. This is the one that usually comes from having really warm, responsive care when you were young. If you're secure, you tend to see yourself as totally worthy of love, and you see other people as generally reliable. You're comfortable with both intimacy and independence. It's all about that healthy balance. And this quote, it just nails that feeling of ease, right? There's no constant nagging worry about being abandoned or rejected. It's just this fundamental trust, both in yourself and in your partner. Okay, next up, we've got the anxious, preoccupied style. Now, this is where you have a negative view of yourself, but a positive view of other people. And this creates a really tricky dynamic. You crave a ton of intimacy because it helps validate your self-worth, but at the same time, you live with this constant fear that your partner is going to leave you. And the craziest part, this fear can actually draw you to partners who seem the least available, like someone with an avoidant style, because you might see their independence as a kind of strength you wish you had. You can just feel the conflict in that statement, can't you? It's this intense desire to connect, but it's always paired with this nagging worry that the other person won't feel the same way. And this can lead to needing a lot of reassurance from a partner, which ironically can sometimes end up pushing them away and making your worst fears come true. All right, let's flip this script to the dismissive avoidant style. This is the exact opposite combo. You've got a positive view of yourself, but a pretty negative view of others. So to protect themselves, people with this style make independence their top priority. They tend to suppress their feelings. And what's really fascinating is they often find themselves being pursued by anxious types. This just confirms their internal belief that other people are needy, which reinforces their choice to keep everyone at arm's length. It's all about staying in control and being self-sufficient. Yeah, this quote is the perfect example of that defensive self-reliance. It's basically a way of saying, look, I don't need anybody because the only person I can truly count on is myself. They often have to deny their own need for closeness just to keep up that feeling of being untouchable. And last but not least, we have the fearful avoidance style. This one comes from having an unstable or negative view of both yourself and other people. It's really the most conflicted style of all. On one hand, you desperately want to be close to someone. But on the other hand, you're terrified of it, maybe because of past trauma or loss. It's this devastating combo of believing you're not worthy of love and that other people are just going to hurt you anyway. And wow, this inner thought process, it just says it all, doesn't it? It is such a painful place to be. You want connection so badly, but that desire gets completely sabotaged by this deep fear of getting hurt. You can see how this would make it almost impossible to trust people and build those secure relationships you really, truly want. Okay, So it's really important to remember that these styles aren't just, abstract psychological labels. They have a huge, very real and measurable impact on how our relationships actually play out in the real world, day in and day out. And just look at this chart. It really puts those consequences right in front of us. I mean, look at that dramatic drop-off in relationship satisfaction when you compare the anxious and avoidant styles to the secure one. We're not talking about a small difference here. It's a major gap. It just goes to show how much this internal blueprint really affects our day-to-day happiness. So let's break down what that actually looks like. People who are secure, they tend to have longer-lasting relationships, they're better at communicating constructively, and they actually lean on their partners when things get tough. But with the insecure styles, well, you often see a lot more jealousy, people are less likely to ask for support, and that can lead to lower commitment overall. That internal code really does seem to dictate the results. But attachment is only one piece of the puzzle. The actual feeling of love, it's not this one static thing. It changes and it transforms, sometimes pretty dramatically over the course of a long-term relationship. Researchers have basically identified two main types of love. First, you've got passionate love. That's the intense, dizzying, can't eat, can't sleep feeling we all know from the beginning of a romance. And then there's companionate love. This is that deep, steady, comfortable affection that's built on a foundation of trust, intimacy, and a shared life together. And these two types of love tend to follow a pretty predictable path. But here's the kicker. Our attachment style completely colors how we experience that path. So for a secure person, when that initial passionate love starts to mellow out, it just feels like a natural, comfortable shift into something deeper. But for someone with an anxious style, that fading intensity can be terrifying. It can trigger all those abandonment fears and make them think something is terribly wrong. And for an avoidant person, the growth of that deep companionate love can feel threatening, almost like it's taking away their independence. So what feels like a solid foundation for one person can feel like a trap to another. Okay, so after hearing all of that, you might be sitting there thinking, oh great, so I'm just stuck with my code forever. But listen, this is probably the most important thing I'm going to say today. You are not stuck. Just understanding your blueprint is the absolute first step toward being able to rewrite it. And we actually have the data to back this up. Seriously, research shows that a good 20 to 30% of people, that's a lot, they actually change their attachment style over time. This proves that these working models aren't some rigid personality trait you're born with. They can be changed. They can be updated. So the big takeaway here is that change is absolutely possible. It all starts with just being honest with yourself and acknowledging your own patterns. And get this, new positive relationship experiences can literally help overwrite that old programming. You can consciously practice more secure behaviors, like actually asking for help when you need it or offering support to your partner. That stuff builds new neural pathways. And of course, professional help, like something called emotionally focused therapy, is designed specifically for this, to help couples build much more secure bonds together. Look, this information isn't meant to be just a diagnosis. It's a tool. It's something that can empower you to understand yourself and your partners on a much deeper level and to start consciously building the kind of connection you really want. So that question on the screen, it's not just a cute way to end this. It's your starting line.